Welcome everyone to the Tuesday, June 15th regular business meeting of the Board of Education. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic which stands one nation indivisible with liberty and justice for all. I just want to thank everybody for your patience. We were outside doing tenure and 20-year pins. Took a little longer because we have a very long-winded superintendent. So it took a little longer than we thought it would. But again, I want to thank you for your patience and just sitting tight and waiting for us. So I hope everybody out in the audience can hear us. And I can't find out because I have to wait for my Chromebook to be able to see the chat. So we're going to start today's meeting with, I need a motion to move docket 0-373 through to 0-374. I mean, 377.
So moved.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. We're going to stop at report of committees to invite, I'm going to do this wrong, I'm sorry, sir, Mr. Marty Epstein up to present a plaque.
Thank you, Mr. Regan and Bro, for maybe a minute or so. I promise I won't be that long.
No
I don't make a habit of traveling from board meeting to board meeting. I am the director of athletics from Long Beach Public Schools, and I represent the Council of Administrators, which is in our area about over 50 directors of health, physical education, and athletic directors in Nassau County. And this year, every year we nominate someone to be the director of the year, and it's not an award that's passed around. It's your turn. It's recognized amongst all 50 of us, and I've never gotten it. It's a very special award. Other people have never gotten it. It's really considered a really high-level award, and it's really an honor for me to recognize Mr. Mastretta amongst his peers. He is recognized as one of the most hardworking, dedicated professionals that we have in our athletic department. And I know you all probably know this, but you should know, from our viewpoint, he really, anytime we need to turn to someone for a valued opinion or someone who we need to pick up a job or something, he's always willing to do that. So we also realize that it's a really hard thing for a family to be an administrator as well as all we have. And I did bring flowers because I thought maybe Mrs. Mastretta would be here, but she's attending another family. So Chris, please, you can take ownership for this. Give us flowers. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Come on.
Oh, wait, I didn't see that. That's great. Nice touch.
Okay, so we're going to move on to reports of committees. So we have no Board of Education report at this time. I'm going to save my words for later. PTA, PTSA, and SEPTA. So PTSA, Mrs. Merle, do we have any report?
Well, we have our final meeting tomorrow night, which was supposed to be last night, but Mrs. Merle did not have her act together, so we'll hold it until tomorrow night. So I hope everyone can join us, and thank you for all your support this year, and have a great school.
Thank you very much. I am going to apologize in advance. I will not be in attendance tomorrow night. I have a family event that I have to attend to. Mrs. Shinsato will be in attendance in my stead, although I'm sure she would have been there anyway.
Lengthy report.
I will be writing lots and lots of words, even if they don't make any sense. Do we have, I can't see, so I'm gonna look at the screen and hope that I can tell if we have any SEPTA or PTA representatives on the webcam. Can you just unmute yourself and let me know who you are and give your report?
It's Carrie. I'm the president of SEPTA. We do not have a report. Our year has kind of come to an end, and we wish everybody a wonderful summer.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Mummondy. Do we have any PTA representatives in the audience? Sorry, very hard for me to read from here. All right, I'm gonna go with no at this point. So we're gonna move on to our superintendent.
It's Carrie again. I don't know if anybody's on. I can report that they are having sixth grade fun day on Friday, and if it rains, Monday, and that their graduation is next week. I don't know that they have any more meetings or anything else, but I know that those are two things that are going on in that world.
Thank you so much again,
You're
Mrs.
welcome.
Mummondy.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the superintendent's report. Mr. Reaman?
I'm going to yield most of my time to colleagues to my left. They have some presentations tonight. I do want to make a plug for STEAM Night on behalf of Mr. Jemmy and the entire STEM staff. The theme this year is Learning Beyond the Classroom. It launched last evening. The students and staff made hands-on activities for the whole family to explore in the field of science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So it's on the link is on the website, so feel free to visit that. The only other thing I want to say is thank the entire staff, the West Hempstead school community, the West Hempstead community, because it looks like the pandemic is coming to an end, and we have made it through. Not without its trials and tribulations, but I am quite proud to be part of a district who was able to maintain a very low positivity rate throughout the height of COVID-19. I am proud to be part of a district that made no excuses. We kept teaching and learning at the forefront after safety.
No.
I'd like to thank Mr. Gorsak and his staff.
Yes.
Mr. Fleck and his staff. Which is really not more than two other people.
It doesn't matter. I guess you
For
can
their
put it.
amazing work in keeping the technology up and running, for keeping our buildings clean and safe. Can't say enough, but people to my left who have been standing here every single day, including Ms. Bryant. Came in Saturdays when we needed, worked tirelessly to ensure that everyone got what they needed. Finishing on a strong note, great stuff happening over the next week and a half. I think we kick it off with Cornwell's moving up ceremonies on Thursday, Chestnut on Friday. Great way to end the weekend. Then we move in to next week, have the dates right. GW's on Tuesday, rain date Wednesday, middle school's Thursday, rain date Friday. And I left out purposely, I'm saving it for last. This Sunday is the only graduation that occurs K-12. You all know, up ceremony, graduation will take place at CW Post on the football field. And a very exciting time. And I'm happy that the seniors are going to be able to wrap up their careers all together. We didn't know they're all allowed to bring 4 guests with them to the event, so that's great. And this week is senior week. They had a big kickoff yesterday. The seniors were the only ones in the building. All the 9, 10s, and 11s were remote. And then Thursday night, they're having a big event as well. So exciting times, and looking for a strong finish, and letting everybody go, be, and breathe, and relax, not think about school for a bit. Read a book, find a beach, find a lake, take a walk, get some exercise, whatever it is your favorite thing is to do, please do it. Because everyone can say this year that you've all learned it. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
So up first this evening is Ms. Dina Riley, who is going to present on our new science program entitled Amplified K-8. is doing.
So good evening, everyone. Before I begin, I'd like to thank the Board of Education, Mr. Riemann, and our community members for allowing me to present on the Amplify program. These are some interesting phenomena questions that current scientists are investigating as we speak in the 21st century. Modern curricula needs to be updated in order to keep up with progress that's taking place in STEM-related fields. Recognizing this need, SED recently created a new set of standards in science that reflects a real-world approach. The next generation science standards adopts a three-dimensional approach to science by moving away from the traditional textbook and rote memorization. The three-dimensional approach includes science and engineering practices, disciplinary core knowledge, and cross-cutting concepts. A cross-cutting concept is a skill that's shared amongst content areas, and those can include cause and effect, inference, patterns, and stability. So keeping that in mind, our district quickly jumped into action and assembled a committee of teachers and administrators to review the science programs and select one that fit our district's vision and the science standards as well. The committee set goals when selecting our programs, and we wanted a program that allowed our students to become scientists, engage deeply in the content, and a program that brought exposure to the cross-cutting concepts I just mentioned. After reviewing the programs, the committee selected and decided to pilot the Amplify program across across grade levels. And after receiving professional development on the program, our teachers jumped into action. So as the teachers and the students were engaged in the pilot, we touched base with them to garner feedback about their thoughts. And our staff and students mentioned that the experience with simulations were fun and exciting. When newer concepts were introduced, they kept building upon phenomena. And the real-world connections that our students were able to make by authentic documents, such as receiving letters from doctors, were really cool. Students felt like they were part of the investigation process, and they weren't only just reading. The committee reassembled at the end of the pilot to discuss the program's features and our students' responses. And after we reviewed everything, the committee felt that Amplify was the perfect fit and matched our needs.
From K through 8, students are talking the talk of science. They are thinking like scientists, they are doing like scientists, they're talking like scientists. They're preparing for new standards, for shifts in science instruction, for providing our students with opportunities to really dig deeper and to really think at a higher level. We looked for a resource that was different from what we had in the past. We wanted a resource that was phenomenon based, that had strong storylines, that the 3 dimensions of science were interwoven, not treated as separate entities. And it was very obvious to us that Amplify Science was created, developed for NGSS, not just aligned to the standards.
I love teaching Amplify Science because the students are actually solving a real world problem. And when we want to get our students college and career ready, they need to solve real world problems. Amplify has just allowed us to really have a reason for each lesson, and the kids know the why of each lesson that we're learning. Science in my classroom right now is a very balanced approach. Kids are reading, they're writing, they're collaborating with each other, they're visualizing things that are happening, they're utilizing technology to make sense of it. Now with Amplify Science, it's more of a balance. While they do have hands-on activities, those activities are designed for a reason.
and that is for evidence collection and for deepening explanations. So I like to think about it's not so much the stuff that you put in their hands, but it's the way you have your students think.
I can't even put into words the change in attitude.
When I grow up, I want to be an astronomer because ever since we started to amplify science and learned about space, it made me want to learn about more about the universe and stars and other planets like exoplanets.
So from a teacher standpoint, for me, to be able to sit back and watch the student debate was just so enjoyable to watch the scientific argument actually verbally take place in the classroom. I've actually been very amazed at how my English language learners have taken to this program.
We didn't just adopt a curricular resource. We feel like we really became part of a team with the folks in New York, Amplify, and the folks in California with Lawrence Hall of Science. The teachers in Grand Island are loving Amplify Science. And I think one of the biggest reasons is that they are seeing just what their students are capable of. Amplify from K through 8. Students are talking the talk of science. They are thinking like scientists.
So Amplify is a K through 8th grade phenomena-based science program that blends hands-on investigations, literacy, and interactive digital tools so that students can be empowered to think, read, write, and debate like a true scientist. This approach aligns with our district's vision because we are always looking for opportunities for our students to apply their critical thinking skills and constructing knowledge through discovery, inquiry, and investigation, rather than a rote memorization approach. Amplify students, as you saw, are exposed to a comprehensive online platform that includes virtual simulations, workbooks, science articles that connect real-world experiences to the students in the classroom, formative assessments that have the capability of measuring students' understanding in real time. And all of these resources are available in Spanish to support our English language learners. And as you've seen in the video, Amplify aligns perfectly with the next gen science standards because it offers the targeted 3-dimensional approach to learning. Core content knowledge, scientific and engineering practices, and cross-cutting concepts. In keeping with the spirit of being a true scientist, our students receive an investigations notebook at the beginning of every unit. That acts as their ability to immerse themselves in the phenomenon process throughout their learning experiences. The phenomenon really is the unit's objective throughout that each student encounters throughout the lessons. Students are presented with various documents in their notebooks from authentic sources that they can look into and analyze. And those examples would include letters from doctors, as we mentioned before, and investigations, as well as the results of those investigations conducted by true scientists. So they have the ability to analyze those documents, create their own predictions, and then test it through virtual simulations. And here's a sneak peek at some of the units of study that our students would be working with through the Amplify program. Kindergarten has pushes and pulls. Grade 2, plant and animal relationships. Grade 3, balance and forces. Looking at middle level, grade 4, vision and light. Grade 5, modeling matter. Grade 6, populations and resources. Into the middle school, grade 7 has focus and motions, and grade 8 are traits and reproduction. I mentioned just a quick. So these are the very questions you may recall that I had posted or I had shared with you on the first slide. These are examples of the very questions that our students will be investigating through the 3-dimensional approach found in the Amplify program. So here's one question. What happens when NASA has a docking failure in space? Our West Hempstead NASA scientists will investigate a docking failure in space by examining forces of motion. They will reenact the shuttle's docking event to ascertain what went wrong in the process. And as a culminating activity, our students will apply the laws of physics on a movie set to demonstrate how force, motion, and velocity are impacted by these laws of physics. A second question: how can a geneticist better analyze human traits from spider silk? While students are wearing their geneticist hats in West Hempstead, they will create Punnett squares to analyze traits by gathering evidence from changing the protein in a spider cell with a hands-on experiment in class, so that they can understand how changing the protein will change the trait. A third question: what can the Bengali forest tell us about plant and animal relationships? Students will participate in a virtual safari where they can experience what it's like to be in the Bengali forest and collect data on plants and animals and decide what, if any, relationship exists between them.
Sorry.
So just one question. Thank you for the presentation. I would be excited to be a science student, this type of learning going on, because I'm sure they're sick of the textbooks, which brings me to my question. Are textbooks now going to be obsolete for science anyway?
We don't have necessarily a textbook. We have workbooks and storybooks and notebooks, scientific notebooks that our students can use, and then we have a full complement of online resources to do,
Okay, so it's going to be all digital.
along with kits in which they can do they can experiment with the phenomena and putting that knowledge into a real, actual hands-on experiment.
So beginning, just one last question. The overarching questions that are going to be presented at the beginning of the school year, are they going to work through that question with the different units of instruction?
Those questions at the beginning of every unit of study acts as the phenomenon that they would be unpacking through each unit.
Science. Right? Vinny's gonna go back to science. They didn't have science class. They just started. Does anybody else on the board have a question? I do have one question, from the audience in regard to it that I'll ask only because it's involving the science question, and then we'll go on to Mr. Press's conversation, and other questions can be asked at the individual portion. But does the board have any other questions in regards to Ms. Riley's presentation? Okay, so the one question in regard to this specific thing is just, how often is science taught in the K-5 grades? And they wanted to know if there was a separate science teacher.
There isn't a separate science teacher. There is a period during their blocks, their 6-day blocks, in which they can teach, where they are taught science. And we have some teachers in the 5th grade, such as Hayward, that teaches science, so it's a little bit more departmentalized. But in the 4th grade, it would be their classroom teacher, and in the 6th grade, it would be Ms. Matola, who was a dedicated science teacher in the science lab.
We're gonna move on to Mr. Press then, at this point. Which can be Batman and Robin, because our job is taken.
I'm very upset about that. It's my history. My background.
I know, right? I thought we covered that.
That has been reserved for violence. Okay, good evening. Thank you for allowing us to present Ms. Riley, and I will present this as a tag team. I'll start it off and then I'll hand it off to her and she'll hand it back to me. We're going to present to you this evening our plan for our spending plan for the federal stimulus funds. that we have been allocated, as well as for the additional foundation aid that we received as part of the 21-22 school year. Budget. So just high level, we talked about this during the budget presentations. We received two different sources of federal stimulus funding. One from the December stimulus plan from Washington and one from the March plan. Together, they are about $3.8 million that we received. These are one-time non-recurring allocations. And as I said during the budget presentations, these funds are not part of the regular budget. They are treated as grants. So they're basically housed in our special aid fund, which is not part of the budget that the community votes on. The second bit of funding here, the $750,000 of additional foundation aid that we received, that is part of the general fund budget, as part of the budget that the community voted on in May. So we're going to talk about our plans for that. Some general guidelines. I won't read through this. Essentially, the federal funds, the intent behind them and the purpose is to assist school districts to address the impacts of COVID-19 on the schools, to help in the reopening of schools, and to address some of the impacts on students as a result of COVID-19. So to address academic needs, loss of learning time, social and emotional impacts of the pandemic as well. Some of the funding specifically was stated that should be used to try and address improving air filtration, HVAC type situations to improve air quality in the classrooms as well. We'll get into a little bit more of that as we go through. The only real specific requirement in there was in the second bit of funding, the American Recovery Plan, which was the March plan, was that a minimum of 20% of those funds from the ARP allocation have to be spent on to address loss of classroom instruction. So we're going to go through and present what our plan is currently and get your feedback. And at this point, I'm going to hand it off to Ms. Riley.
Thank you. I'm Mrs. Riley, in case you don't remember, from 5 minutes ago. So looking at some of our programs, specifically under the lens of social emotional health supports, the district has recently created a collaborative partnership with Northwell Health Systems, specifically South Oaks Hospital. This partnership really facilitates the ability for the district to partner with mental health staff in Northwell Health for our students who are identified in West Hempstead. It allows us to provide mental health services to our students that traditionally would be outside of the scope of our staff here or outside of the school day. Those types of services can include clinical evaluations and staff professional development, in addition to therapeutic services, as I mentioned again, that we could not provide here with our students. The Nassau BOCES Mental Health Consortium is a collaborative network of regional districts in Nassau County that come together to discuss best practices around student social, emotional health, and well-being. It also allows mental health staff to examine the new regulations that are brought forth by SED and really figure out how best we can apply those through the lens of education in our schools. Athletes Helping Athletes is a program also that provides our youth with several leadership conferences and workshops that they can attend. These workshops and conferences really focus on drug and violence prevention. Our students have the opportunity to receive these lessons and get this training from professional and amateur athletes, and then our older students can turnkey it to their younger peers at the grade school level. The Habits of Mind is a social emotional learning program that we piloted the district this year. That program really focuses on the 16 habits of highly effective people. What we want to do in West Hempstead is create a common language and unpack these dispositions through the classroom and through the school environment on how our students can be successful both in class and in life. And as a result, we are providing curriculum development, or rather, curriculum mapping through the summer at every grade level and offering those opportunities to our teachers to be able to create the curriculum that best suits the students developmentally, emotionally, and socially to bring forth the most positive aspects of parents' mind. And lastly, on this slide, we also are a member of the Long Island Council for Excellence in Equity, also known as LICE. This is also a consortium of regional districts that come together to discuss how we want our schools to be successful, but more so, how do we want all our students to be successful, especially through the lens of underrepresented groups. And once again, we have Amplify Science, which I'm sure now you're all familiar with, is a three-dimensional approach to learning that aligns with the next gen science standards. We would like to purchase the program materials, the professional development for our staff, both inside and outside the classroom on best practices, and familiarization with all the resources that are at their fingertips, as well as curriculum writing this summer at every grade level from K through 8. Tools of the Mind, looking ahead to our UPK program, is a research-based pre-K program that focuses on the foundational skills of successful learners, specifically through the lens of cognition, social, and emotional development. Our students will have exposure to literacy, mathematics, and science, as well as executive functioning skills and self-regulation strategies. This instruction will be provided in a center-based stations, in small group, and in partnered activities. Written Out Loud is a program that we are piloting this year. This program is an enrichment program with our students in GW. They have the ability to participate through a virtual platform around literacy. This program allows students to unpack the secret ingredient of great story writing and great storytelling. And then once they've studied and discussed and analyzed these ingredients, they themselves get to roll up their sleeves and write their own authentic story and publish. The summer academies, looking ahead to next year in summer of 22-23, is really mini camps that provide enrichment to our students by a hands-on, minds-on approach where they have the ability to flex their critical thinking and problem-solving skills through the lens of STEM-related activities. And as we had mentioned, even tonight, there's always a need and a shortage of substitute teachers out on Long Island. So we would like to add 6 additional building substitute teachers at our elementary level so that they can become a member of the RAM FAM, understand our district's vision, and when our teachers are not available in the classroom, they can go in and there's a seamless transition to instruction.
So moving on, in terms of instructional technology, supplies, and materials, we are looking at implementing the MyOn Reader program, which is provides students with digital reading access to over 6,000 digital books that are specific to the students' interests and their Lexile level as well. We're starting this actually, we were going to start it in the fall, but Ms. Riley was able to cajole them into letting us start over the summer. So our students will have access to a huge assortment of books that they can now read and occupy themselves over the summer. Books of their own interest, as well as books based on research and assignments for summer assignments. We're looking to complete the classroom libraries at our elementary buildings, again, to complement MyOn and to provide additional reading opportunities for our students to build on those strengths, building Lexile-based libraries in the classrooms. We're looking to refresh our supply of Chromebooks. We handed out a lot of Chromebooks this year, as you know. Some of them came back a little worse for wear. Some of them were a little older and just need to be refreshed. So as we look more at technology use in the classroom and perhaps remotely, we need to have the technology to allow that to happen. Additionally, in terms of musical instruments, some of our instruments are a little on the side, are a little worse for wear. We are looking to try to replace some of those instruments to enhance our music program. Z-Space, which I know has been brought up in some board meetings this year, is something that we sort of we would like to have now. We can purchase that with the stimulus funding. This is a program that allows students to, through virtual reality, explore the human body. And I haven't seen it, but I know Mr. Green has, and I believe Ms. Riley has as well. They talked about one case you can actually go inside the human heart and explore inside the human heart. So that's another boost to our science program. We're also looking to use these funds to help supplement and build our new pre-K program with technology, including iPads and desktop computers, some projectors in the classrooms as well. And we're trying to see if we can find a way to also enhance the experience in the high school auditorium by adding a projector so that we don't have to roll out a cart in front of the auditorium every time we want to project something onto the screen. In terms of facilities and equipment, as I mentioned, improving the air filtration and air quality in classrooms, which is something that was specifically called out in these stimulus plans. We are looking at this point to replace the remaining unit ventilators in the classrooms. This is primarily at the secondary level because the rest of the district, we've replaced the unit ventilators primarily as part of the bond work. So there are approximately 65 unit ventilators in middle and high school that are old that we are looking to replace. We are looking to upgrade some of the technology here in this classroom, in this room here, which we refer to as the VCR room, and some of the technology is probably from when the VCR was at the height of the popularity. So we're trying to upgrade that so that we can actually turn this room into a 21st century video conference. Additionally, we have had conversations about replacing playgrounds at the elementary level. In conjunction with the grant from Senator Kaminsky, we would like to use stimulus funding to make that a reality at Chestnut, at GW, and at Cornwell. Additionally, in terms of the phys ed area and athletics, we have been trying for the last couple of years to upgrade some of the track and field equipment. It's been in, and we've had to pull it out for budgetary reasons. We're looking to purchase pole vault equipment to complete our track and field repertoire so we can host full track and field events here at West Hempstead and showcase the beautiful fields that we have put in. Well, maybe not as exciting, but the gym by high school, which is it's not functioning, we'd like to replace that. That's been something that's been in the works as well. And then for our in our facilities area, we have unfortunately this year had to say goodbye to our tractor of 30 years. The engine seized up on that. So we're looking to use some funding to replace that, as well as a floor scrubber that I think is just as old. That can confirm that that finally kind of the dust. So that is something that we do use as a secondary plant to help clean the floors. Any questions about the federal spending at this point from any of the board members? Okay. Okay. So we'll talk briefly about the foundation aid spending plan. Again, we had received approximately an increase of about $750,000 foundation aid. The state required that because our foundation aid increased greater than 10%, that we present a plan for the spending. As we had discussed during the budget process, the additional foundation aid that we received wasn't aid that we used to increase our budget. It was really, we had used it to offset increases in use of appropriated fund balance. So the things that we're going to talk about are things that are not additions to the budget. These are things that were in the budget, but this foundation aid will help to support that. the purpose and the intent of the funding, similar to this federal stimulus, it's really to address learning loss, achievement gaps, trying to increase graduation rates, address social emotional needs of students, and to provide resources for our more challenged students, our English language learners, our special ed students, our homeless. So the additional foundation aid will be used to support the addition of the new special ed teacher that we talked about adding at the high school to support a class of either 12 or 15 students, depending on need. And also the retention of our AIS service providers, mental health service staff, support staff, and ENL teachers. That's in the our attempt to help support our students in reading that may be struggling academically, but also with their social, emotional needs. Additionally, there's some programs that we will be able to continue and that this additional funding will help support. Achieve 3000, which is a non-narrative based program that allows students to read articles based on current events that tie into curriculum, and that also which is part of one of the ELA learning standards. Castle Learning is another program that allows for online instruction and personalized instruction for students. Raz Kids, another reading program, digital reading program, primarily aimed at our kindergarten students. The nice thing there is that those texts are available in the Spanish language for our English language learners. And finally, ST Math, which is an online math program that is visual learning based. So it removes that maybe the restrictions that may be in place for students who have language challenges. It tailors the program to the student skill level, so you eliminate those restrictions to student learning. And that's it. Unless anyone has any questions.
Sure.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
That's not.
Mother.
I can do that.
Yeah, a couple, just like a two parts, which is, can you talk a little bit about the process that went into picking the items here and how we decided these were the items? And kind of a secondary thing, you talk a little bit about if this money can be shared to other schools in the district, and if so, what conversations have been had in that realm as well.
Okay, I'll address the second part first. As part of these stimulus plans, the non-public schools in the district receive their own funding separately. So the CARES Act when we received the CARES Act funding, we did have to reach out to the non-public schools and have a conversation with them about sharing funding. In this case, I think the government realized, probably it's a lot of complaint, that it's very difficult to coordinate amongst all the different schools, and they got their own tranche of funding. We don't have to address that directly. In terms of what items we chose, I mean, we went back and forth, Mr. Riemann, Ms. Riley, and we had conversations with the directors. We looked at some of the things that, excuse me, were maybe taken out, things that we had talked about wanting to implement that we weren't able to because of budgetary constraints. So Amplify was one of those programs that we wanted to do it and then pulled it out of the budget. We were able to put it back in as part of the stimulus spending. Unit ventilators really wasn't on our radar, but it is something that was kind of in the back of our minds, and it fit very squarely within the guidelines of what they were talking about in terms of improving air quality and air filtration in the classroom. So that was kind of a no-brainer. Some of the other things, it was really a conversation about where were the needs for the students and how we could best use the funding to address those needs. Thanks.
Could you expand a little bit on what exactly is My On Reader? Does it apply to all the children in the district, and how would they access that?
MyOn is a digital literacy platform. Purchased grade 1. They can access it through ClassLink. I'm sorry, I apologize. It's a literacy-based software platform that allows 6,000 plus titles that are dynamically matched to students' reading interest for pleasure, as well as if they need to do research. Students can access this via ClassLink on the single sign-on option, as they normally would any other program. It will be available in July for use to complement the summer reading program with our students. Did I answer everything?
You did. Thank you so much.
So that would be all students.
One
One through, yes. And also, in addition to the books, Ms. Shinsato, there's also articles of various selections.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just, can you speak to the length of time this money has to be spent over?
So the two different sources of the federal stimulus have different timelines. The first step, the CRRSA money is spent over a 2-year period. Currently, the second bit of money, the ARP, the American Recovery Plan money, is looked to spend over 3 years. The state is trying to tell us 4 years, but from the federal government, it's 3 years right now. So that's the period of time that we have to spend it. So the programs that we're talking about, and you see some of the things we talked about. I think the Amplify was for over maybe a 2-year period, the Ion was a 3-year period. Some of the unit ventilators, I am anticipating that one is going to want to do unit ventilators. We can spend these funds on that. It directly addresses the issue laid out in the guidelines. I'm anticipating that's going to take a while to, number one, get SED approval. Everybody, 700 school districts are now submitting plans to the state. It's going to take a while to get approval. So it's something that we're going to spend over a number of years.
So we I just want to make sure it's clear to everybody in hearing all of this, this is not something we're going out and spending tomorrow. As much as I would like to have new playgrounds in the next, 3 months, that's probably not going to happen either. But we are working on it. We did have playgrounds in the works prior to the 0% budget last year. And that got put on hold. So this actually helps us, along with that extra money from Senator Kaminsky, to be able to get that done, which is a great thing, especially because apparently I didn't know that there were certain grade levels when you buy playgrounds like that. And apparently our Chestnut Street playground is not, it's for kindergartners. It's not really what they would consider pre-K and kindergarten. So it will be nice when that one is replaced and it could be for both pre-K and kindergarten. I actually want to play on them because I did get to see a couple of books. I was a little excited. They actually are very cute. They've come a long way since we were in school, I'm just saying. Do we have any other questions for Mr. President Riley from the audience? From the board, rather, before I move on? Okay, so I'm.
Before you.
Oh, you have one more thing.
Just
I
the one
forgot.
more
Sorry.
slide.
See, I jumped in.
No, that's okay. I just want to make sure I got to this. There is a thought exchange survey that will be shared with the community. More. Okay. That will seek input. See if there's any thoughts and ideas from the community that we can still implement into this plan. We have to file one, again, the federal funds, one of the December funds, we have to file our spending plan by the end of this month. ARP money, they have not told us when we have to file that, but we can start spending that. We don't have an application out yet from the state. So we have to submit applications, we have to get approved before we spend some of them. So that's my share.
Thank you very much to both of you. I'm going to jump in a second to the portion so I'm sure you guys are going to have questions if you want to just stay there for a second. I'm going to jump in, but I'm just going to stop for 1 second. I don't know if anybody else is cold, but can you turn that down a little? I'm like, I don't know about you guys out there. And I have a sweater on.
Joe Puma was fast.
I know. Tell him to take his coat off. He's got a jacket on. Take it off. I'll swap. So anyway, at this point, I do have a couple of questions in the chat box, but I'm going to move on to the period for district residents, Island Park residents, and/or employees of the district. To address the board, this individual will be limited to 3 minutes of non-confidential agenda items with an overall maximum of 20 for this part of the meeting. I'm just going to take a couple of, I'm just going to read these because there's only 2 on here that I see. Ms. Riley, just to go back to your presentation from before and the question that I asked you from the audience, the question is, they're still asking how many days per week, K through 5, do they get science?
Miss Nani, how many days is in that 6-day cycle? Do they get a dedicated science period?
They get it
Every single day, 6 out of 6 days in the cycle.
In
So
5th and 6th grade, they get it every single day. They're asking K through 5.
Okay. First, second, and third? Ideally every day? Every day.
Okay, so it appears that it's ideally every day. I'm guessing that if there's certain things going on, they may miss science if there's some kind of special event or something to that case. But that's what we're being advised from the principals at this point. Sorry. Mrs. Day is asking, wow, I'm a little blind here today. To what degree does the state fund the UPK programs? Do they also contribute a portion to supplies and materials? And if so, is there a yearly established apportionment?
The state allocations at this point for UPK are 5,400 per seat as determined by the state. That's their formula. They have themselves acknowledged that the amount of funding that they are providing is not intended to cover the full cost of a UPK classroom. And from the conversations that we've had, and there have been many of them, other districts and providers have said, yeah, $5,400 a student doesn't cover it. So there is a need to supplement.
Mrs. Day is happy about a new playground at Cornwell, and would like to know the differences between RAS Kids and My On Reader.
RAS Kids, they're for younger grades, younger students, and we found that when speaking with our teachers in the different grade levels, kindergarten found that RAS Kids was easy to use for our students, provided Lexile text at their Lexile level, at their interest level, and they found that the students.
And just one more question from Mrs. Day really quick. Is the state funding we receive dependent upon the number of residents in the district or number of students currently enrolled in the public school?
So this, in terms of the stimulus funding that we received is based on our Title I allocations. I think it probably is somehow tied to enrollment. I haven't looked that closely at the formula. We sort of looked at the funding that they provided to us, but it was based on our Title I fund allocation.
And Mrs. Day, we answered the question about the private schools. They got separately funded through these CARES Acts, and the other one through the government. Mrs. Hafner, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. I'm curious, when do you review as a board the dockets for tonight's meeting? This agenda was posted yesterday.
Friday.
No,
Friday.
no, I checked it every day.
Posted Friday.
Well, it wasn't posted on my computer yesterday, Friday. I
Posted
checked.
on
I
Friday.
checked all weekend. So I have dockets 381 and 382 that have to do with contracts.
Mhm.
And numbers for the salaries in those contracts do not match the numbers that we put out on our 21-22 budget.
Correct.
So I'm just curious if the community is voting on this budget, and yet the numbers that we have the community vote on are not matching what you're going to be asked to vote on for contracts.
So this goes back to the conversation that we had with Mrs. Day, I think maybe 2 meetings ago, when she asked about the numbers. That the numbers that we presented in this budget show different than what was voted on the year before. Because we don't do administrative contracts until after the budget is passed. Due to avoid the fact that if budget doesn't pass, the administrators don't get new contracts. They stay at where they were. So the monies that are put in the budget are, the salaries they're currently getting. If
Not
they-
according to this budget.
the salary that they were currently receiving last year.
The 2021-22 salaries,
The 2021-22 salaries are listed as what they were receiving in the 2021 school year.
no, I'm sorry. The only one that matches that is for the superintendent, but not for the assistant
Because
superintendent.
Mrs. Hafner, if you recall, are you looking at two different budgets? Are you looking at the 2021 budget and then the
I am
2022
looking at the
budget?
21-22
Right, but
budget.
where are you getting the numbers that you're telling me are different for?
On the budget that's on your website.
Okay. Okay, let me back up. Take away the contracts we're gonna pass tonight. I'm telling you that what they received in their salary last year is what's on that budget.
It's not.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So
I mean,
if-
I have it here. You
so-
can take a look at it.
If you want to talk about the contracts we're passing tonight,
I'm just asking why there's a difference from what you put out on a budget
because
or
we
what
don't
is in a
vote,
contract.
because we don't vote on their contracts or their increases until the budget passes. It is up to the board to determine what their salaries will be the following year. It's not. And this is what we discussed with Mrs. Day the last time when she asked about Mr. Press's salary and why the salary was different.
Yes, because
Right.
Mr. Press in 2021 was 145. It was budgeted, proposed budget for 21-22 of 160. And the current contract is at
Because
175.
he was budgeted for what he was making the year before, because we do not pass their contracts until the budget passes. Because if we pass their contracts, the budget fails, they're not getting those increases, they can't. Last year, we didn't even go out with, more than a 0% as a tax levy. So-
I'm absolutely confused because the numbers, it goes from
Mr.
145.
Press was making 145 before we voted on last year's budget, not this year's budget, 145. Before last year's budget was voted on, 2021, right? Am I in the right year?
2021 budget says
Right.
145.
Right, that's
Sorry,
what he was
Mr. Press,
making.
but
I don't particularly like to talk about this with people in the, with them in the room, but whatever. This is the conversation we had the last time when I answered Mrs. Day. We already discussed this.
Yes, you
Mr.
gave
Press is
rationale
making-
for the reason why you put it as 160.
Right,
I
and
heard the rationale.
and I said that night that we did that after the budget passed, because if the budget didn't pass, we couldn't increase his salary like that. Because we'd have to use that money for the children's education, not to put him on par with where he's supposed to be. So again, with tonight's contract, we're doing the same thing. So in May of last year, when we voted on the budget, he was making 145. We do administrators' contracts in June. So in June, we increased his salary, and for the year of July 2020 to 2021, he made $160,000.
Didn't take a 30 years.
But that's, the
Same.
budget is
One
21, 22.
No, now you're talking about 21-22's budget, which says he makes 160, correct?
That's what the proposed budget was, yes.
Right. Because that's what he was making when we passed the budget, because we don't do administrative salaries until June. It's been like that for years.
But then where does the money come from? That we increase their salaries?
Comes from out of the general fund.
Until the budget passes.
Right.
It's been this
So-
way for 30 years.
I'm sorry, Benny, couldn't hear
It's
you.
been this way for 30 years.
So in order to give increases, there have been years where if the budget is slim or we don't have the money, that administrators have taken no increase. For one, Mr. Reaman last year, no increase in his salary from 2019-20 to 2021. Whereas the other administrators did get an increase in their salary. So we have always, that's not even a word, always done administrative budgets after, contracts after, for that specific purpose, because the people that, the teachers and the WASA and WOSA and all the SAs, But those contracts are contractual. Those raises are contractual. We can't avoid that. We can't tell them that they're not getting their increases. But we can go to the administrators and say, we're really in a rock and a hard place. We can go to, the other members of central office and say, we're really between a rock and a hard place. And we unfortunately cannot increase your salary this year, but maybe we could let you buy back a vacation day or two. And we have done that in the past.
Okay. Document 402, Financial Advisory Services Agreement. Or is this company a fiduciary? Joel, I think this is under your domain.
This is our fiscal advisor. They've been our fiscal advisor for a number of years.
And my question is, are they a fiduciary?
What do you mean?
I can't hear you.
What do you mean by
A
that?
fiduciary is a defined advisor. It's not, anybody could be an advisor. I could be an advisor, but a fiduciary has to have a degree and a certification. Is this group a fiduciary?
I will get back to you on
You
that.
should be able to ask them and they should be able to tell you. You'll let me know?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna go to a couple of the questions in the chat box. Bear with me for a second as I try to scroll down. I have Ms. Fennis, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yes, thank you. It's not really a question, it's a statement to your answer. If you put on the budget that the new contract is going to be for a certain amount and the public approves that amount, then you sign the contract for that amount. If not, then it's understood, if it doesn't pass, that the contract's going to stay at the old price. You're being totally dishonest. I don't care, it's been done for 30 years that way. When I look at the budget and I decide if I'm going to say yes or no, I'm looking at the numbers you're going to use. And I assume that you're telling me the truth, that your contract for a superintendent or for whoever that following year is going to be this. If it was something that the contract was done towards the end of the year and you changed it, that's one thing. But you're doing it right after we approved a budget that said you were going to do so much for a contract. And that's what you should be sticking to. We need some transparency in every district. And apparently it is not here. I'm really frustrated you're treating us like children, that we can't understand that somebody wants to make more. But when we, the people who are paying the bills, agree to a contract with you, we expect you to hold that contract. Now, if you wanted to state, this is what we're putting up, but we really want to give the person more money if you approve it, well, then put it on the budget, because that's what we are voting for, the information that we are given.
Thank you, Mrs. Fennis. What the only thing that I can say, and again, sometimes doing things one way just because it's the way it's been done forever isn't always the best way, and maybe it's something to look at, but I can tell you that when we put numbers on the budget for their salaries, those are their current salaries. It has nothing to do with a contract, because
No. Because the budget you say the budget is for the following year. So we are assuming, because that's what we're being told, that is the budget we are approving, that is the salary the person's getting for 21-22.
Understood. Mr. Muscat, you also had a question, if you'd like to unmute.
Yes,
I don't
thank
know if
you.
I said that right.
Yep. It's Adam Muscat, West Hempstead resident. I had a question. Now that the weather is getting nice outside and school's going to be out of session, I know neighboring towns are opening up their school tennis courts to their residents. I wanted to know if West Hempstead would be able to do the same and open up their tennis courts to the West Hempstead residents.
There was a reason back in the day. There were a few times where we tried to open the tennis courts to residents, and there were issues with damage to the nets and the tennis courts, which are remarkably expensive to repair. I will have administration speak with Mr. Mistretta again and see if there's any kind of conversation or something that we can do in that regard. However, I will tell you that there's also currently a situation where there may be work being done on the tennis courts this summer. So I just want to make sure that you're aware of that as well.
No, I was not aware of that, but maybe perhaps you can reach out to the neighboring towns and see how they open it up to their residents and without getting any damage. I don't know if you lock them at night or whatnot, but that's a possibility also.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. We will, like I said, I know Mr. Mistretta is still in the room, so then I'm seeing him look at me, so we will have a conversation about that as well. Mr. Zerndorfer, I see your message in regard to the status of summer food distribution and the possibility of kosher food distribution here in West Hempstead. I will tell you, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Press because I do know that he's been having conversations in the recent past of trying to get this up and running as well.
Yeah, so I'll try and talk with this on. If you can't hear me, let me know. I have had conversations with State Education Department, with Lawrence, the business official of the Lawrence School District, about the possibility of kosher meal distribution in West Hempstead. We actually have a call with myself, the business official from Lawrence, and the State Education Department tomorrow morning to discuss this.
Thank you very much. And as soon as we have answers, just for anybody that is, interested in this conversation, and to answer your question, Mr. Zerndorfer, we will post information that we have as we have it on the website. I do know, we've been working hard to try to get this up and running, but now they continually change all the answers as to how things can be run. So once Mr. Press has that conversation, I was kind of hoping it was going to happen before today, but unfortunately, SED was not available. Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Merle?
Emily Merle, district resident. I have a question, Ms. Riley, about, I know you can't see me, I'm sorry.
No, I'm over here.
Can't
see me.
No, I get, how much of the, new science program is actual hands-on as opposed to virtual simulations and reading and all that stuff?
Well, the hands-on part really comes through kits that where students have the opportunity to do labs and phenomena which they have the opportunity to write in. So I would say it would be probably a very equal balance where they would have the opportunity to review and then proceed to do inquiry-based or hands-on experiments, conversations, small group work within the groups.
And then one other thing, in terms of spending money on iPads and some computers for pre-K, please spend money on blocks and Legos first.
Thank God. Yeah, like how do you make that decision? On iPads for pre-K. I was a pre-K teacher for years. That's the last thing those little kids need.
Mrs. Merrill, in response to your question,
Sorry.
it is a very good point. You and I have already talked about this. If you heard earlier in the presentation, Ms. Riley spoke about tools of the mind,
Yeah.
which is all hands-on, play-based education. That is our main focus. We're just, that list that you saw tonight was a list that we discussed. We're trying to get input from the community, we'll make final decisions. Trust me when I tell you, our priority, Ms. Tripp's priority, everyone's priority here in this district for pre-K is hands-on, play-based. If it was up to me, I'd design every classroom in a theme. They'd rotate through the themes throughout the year, and that would be their ultimate experience. Probably can't pull it off this year, but it's one of our ultimate goals down the road. So rest assured, it'll be play-based.
It will be color coordinated.
They will not be, like first grade or second grade sitting in a rug, foundations off the top of their head. They're forward. You have to treat them like that.
Good, that's how they learn best.
Yep.
Mrs. Palmieri.
Lisa Palmieri, president. I wanted to talk about bus trips for a second. I know it's high on the list, but I feel like with all the disconnect over people. Hey.
Wait, I'm sorry. Can you pull that down?
Sorry. I think with all the I wanted to talk about field trips, class trips, whatever you want to call them. I think all the disconnect with the masks being on and the kids not seeing the teachers' faces or each other's faces cohort A, cohort B, not know cohort C and all that. And I think, I know before COVID hit, we had been talking about class trips and kind of coordinating them K through 12, because we had a lot of repeats and a lot of trips that kind of felt like weren't so great anymore. So I would just like to see field trips become an important part of what K through 12 is talking about, so we don't have repeats and that they're really worthy. And I also would like to see them maybe in the beginning of the year also, because I feel like it provides for getting to know each other, and then better learning happens and better behaviors. And I know Frost trip was a great trip. My daughter happened to be last year that they went. I know it was a problem with some of the staffing. I don't know the behind the scenes stuff, only what I've heard, but I would like some overnight trips. I mean, COVID is over, 9/11 happened a long time ago. I'd like to move forward, and because I know you guys can all probably agree with me, class trips when I was young, that's what I remember. And that's what I remember my teacher making a joke and realizing they were human or whatever. So I know I'm preaching to the choir and I don't have to go on, but if you could really take a look at them and not let them go by the wayside for another year, I just think some of the grades, in particular, my son is in 7th grade. It's a very difficult group of students. But I think would benefit tremendously from team building like class trips across Valley and stuff early in the year rather than later.
Seventh grade's not difficult, they'll learn. Number one. Number two, the field trip agenda is not off any list.
Can't hear you.
Fine. I'm sorry?
You're muffled, sorry.
Okay, because I'm wearing a mask. I'll talk louder.
Thank you.
As I was saying, field trips are still on our list. Honestly, in the budget, we did not plan for it this year, per se, like an overhaul, because we didn't know where we were going to be with COVID. 100% agree with you. We are heading in the right direction. Keep my fingers crossed and wait to see it in September, because my gut still says someone's going to tell me I have to wear a mask at some point, and I don't know where that's going to lead us down the road. So, but it is on the list. It is something I'm going to be revisiting with building principals, with teachers, to get their input again, because we had started that conversation probably 2-3 years ago now, probably 3 years ago, really. So that's something we're going to start over, go from scratch, refreshing everybody's memory, getting everyone's input, and coming up with a plan.
Can I say one other thing about that? Like, I know that there's been some really creative in-house field trips because of COVID.
Oh, teachers doing some really interesting things this
Yeah.
year.
And no, and I think it's a great way to make up for it.
Not a field trip, though.
It's not the same, but at least it's not your regular school day and they're doing things creative. I love that you had the day for seniors to be here. I didn't even know about that. I just think doing things like that, you know, having Broadway come here and make it Broadway themed. I don't know, whatever it is, I think it can be done, but I just know that there's a lot of disconnect, and I just don't feel like the kids have a good sense of the teachers, and I know they're amazing, and I just would like more of a connection.
I also think here in our district now, with our student population, quite honestly, they're not getting rich cultural experiences that, you know, maybe some people did in the past. So that's something that I think is hugely important as part of a well-rounded K-12 education. So we will, not going to say I'm going to start another committee, because it's the last thing I want to do, but we have enough committees, but if we do, I will call you.
Okay. We've reached our time. Ms. Crumpton, I hope that answered your question. I hope you were able to hear what was being said. It was in regards to field trips as well. We've reached our time for this portion. So I'm going to move on, and then there will be an additional portion at the end for more questions, if there are any. I need a motion to move docket 0-378. Second. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Okay, I am happy to announce we've hired 2 new teachers. First, Mr. Timothy Bramfield, who could not be with us tonight. He's going to be our new physics teacher, replacing the soon-to-be retired Mr. Cosgrove. Mr. Bramfield earned his bachelor's degree from Colgate, and a master's degree in physics from Penn State. He also holds a master's degree in secondary science education, physics from CUNY City College. Recently, he's been a leave replacement in both Belmore and Hauppauge school districts, and he's being recommended for this position by Mr. Gajemi, Mr. DiTomaso, Ms. Riley, and me. As well, at the high school, we're happy to announce that we are adding Mr. Andrew Buckbinder to the high school special ed staff. He has a bachelor's degree from Binghamton University and a master's degree from Truro College. He holds 2 special ed certifications, and recently he was a leave replacement special education teacher for the Great Neck School District, and he's being recommended for this tenure track position by Ms. Karras, Ms. Riley.
I need a motion to move docket 0-379.
Second.
Andrew, you have a question?
I do. So 379, I see, has to do with our coaching. And I was wondering, what does West Hempstead use as criteria for hiring the coaches?
Hiring coaches?
Yeah.
Well, there's state regulations for that. So any certified teacher, is that or classroom teacher? I was a classroom teacher. I used to coach back today. You can also obtain, if I get it wrong, just jump in. You can obtain what's called a temporary license. It's not really temporary. You have to complete a first aid CPR AED course. I can send you the link with all that tomorrow if you want it. You have to, in the beginning, you have to take like a philosophy of coaching course, a sports management course. I think it used to be called like a health management course. It was the one that where teachers had to tape ankle and that nature. You want to jump in, right?
It's been changed the last few years.
Okay, thank you.
It used to be where you take the 3 classes for
Right.
5 years. Now, because it was very expensive, the state changed it. So it's about 12 classes that they can do now, which are online.
12 different courses?
Yes.
Okay,
And if someone applies for a temporary coaching license, it have to be 3 consecutive years.
right.
Then it becomes professional.
Professional.
License. It's every 3 years, and violence prevention, gossip.
Save, right,
Yeah.
save and they have to get fingerprinted if they're not in the.
So our coaches take those courses?
Yes.
They take them
Yeah.
before they're hired, or they take them while they're coaching?
If you're a physical education teacher, you don't have as many requirements. Say you are a classroom teacher, English, science.
Right.
They have to take the coaching classes.
Before they start coaching,
No, they have within 5 years to do it.
within 5 years?
Yes. And if they don't do it within the 5 years, they can coach.
So we can have a coach for 4 years that doesn't take philosophy or any
The
of those,
online classes, they can, yes. And
but they don't have to.
They don't, in 5 years, they have to complete it, but anyone who's looking to coach has to take first aid, CPR, AED, concussion.
And as far as like professional development for coaching, do we provide anything like that to encourage our coaches that might be a classroom teacher before they coach for 3 or 4 years to take those classes before that happens? How many of our coaches take those classes before they start coaching?
It depends. Some already have it prior to applying for it. Once they get hired, they have evaluation at the end of the season. They're told what the requirements are that they have to take.
But they have 5 years to
Within
fulfill.
5 years. That's what they require.
That's a state rule.
State
State,
requirement.
yeah.
Any other questions in regard to that docket? It's not. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? It passes. I need a motion to, I'm gonna just do this next one separate too. A motion to move docket 0-380.
Second.
What's that copy? Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, Mr. Moon.
So, at this point, I'd like to recommend Mr. Sean Murray for tenure in his position as principal of West Hempstead Middle School. As superintendent, I've had the pleasure of working with Mr. Murray for the past 3 years. He joined us in August of 2018. He has demonstrated a drive and organization that has helped support his work around middle school teaming. When Sean arrived at West Hempstead Middle School, he assessed the status of the teaming first established by Ms. Riley. In his time here, Sean has refined the teaming process to better meet the needs of our students, improve curriculum instruction through walkthroughs, conversations, and presenting Teacher Academy courses. At the same time, he has continued to promote key courses to help students embrace learnings of all types, and set them on a successful path to high school. Most recently, and I'm going to add this in right now, I'm happy to report that we're going to be adding in the junior virtual enterprise program into the middle school. If you're familiar with our BE program at the high school, it's quite successful. The kids get great experiences, and it's another great opportunity for our kids to work on both their research and their presentations. This past summer, Mr. Murray was pivotal in helping us form a comprehensive school reopening plan. During the first days of school and ensuing unease, Mr. Murray fielded questions confidently, leaving parents, staff, and students informed while allowing people to express their concerns. Given the possibility for stress in this high-profile situation, deft communication skills were essential, and Sean possesses these said skills. Mr. Murray brings a personal touch with him to his role within the school district. As the principal, he supported extracurricular activities of students, even those outside of the physical plant. He's made it a point to attend school sporting events and clubs to connect with students and parents in a more social setting. It is for these reasons and many more that I am happy to recommend Mr. Sean Murray for tenure. It is with pleasure for most of us that I am writing in support of Mr. Joseph Pumo's recommendation for tenure as assistant principal. As superintendent of the West Hempstead Union Free School District, I can attest to Joe's strong leadership abilities, especially in teaching and learning. As assistant principal of both the middle school and high school now, Joe is dedicated to ensuring that the instructional environment is focused on continuous improvement. This year, there has been an extra focus on digital age learning. He can be seen modeling and promoting the effective use of technology in learning and his day-to-day work. For instance, he has honed his skills in the creation of the master schedule via Power School. In his new role as high school AP, Mr. Pumo jumped in feet first. He quickly acclimated himself to the routines, built relationships with the staff, and set off to accomplish the high school goals. His laser focus and commitment to our students were evident in his work with the high school overarching goals, pre-AP, and AP initiatives. As you may recall, the overarching goals came from the core knowledge strand of the AAC plan. Mr. Pumo has solidified the essential learnings a student must acquire to graduate and has supported the curriculum and teaching strategies to realize this goal. Joe's ability to promote and instill an intellectual vitality so all students embrace the power of learning, own their future, and become responsible citizens in the global community has been evident in his leadership of both middle school and high school. In addition, he has worked diligently with the staff in developing the pre-AP model and supported successful implementation of the AP capstone program. Most important, Mr. Pumo shares his knowledge and expertise with staff and colleagues. Other administrators in our district call him to looking for informal professional development sessions in various areas. He's quite creative and innovative and inspires others to maximize their use of their own tool belt of strategies to expand their instructional practices. One most recent noteworthy example is an informal session he spearheaded with a small group of staff members to support their ability to present, deliver, and assess learning to students. My recommendation that Mr. Joe Pumo receives tenure as assistant principal in West Hempstead Free School District.
Congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
I will just point out that the reason that, well, not the whole reason that they did not receive tenure when all the teachers received tenure at that meeting was partially because Mr. Murray was unable to be here because he was busy being elected to a school board in another district. So congratulations on that as well. At this point, I need a motion to move docket 0-381 through 0-385. Second. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Any motion to move docket 0-386 through 0-396? Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. I need a motion to move dockets 0-397 through 0-410.
So moved.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We have no old business at this time. And a motion to move docket 0-411 through 0-412. Oh, yeah, sorry. Tony, was that you? Gotta use your big one. Any questions? All in favor? Aye, motion passes. Yeah, I'm gonna skip part for a minute and leave board privilege of the floor to last. Future meeting dates are on the back of the agenda. And at this time, we've reached the second period for district residents, Island Park residents, and or employees of the district to address the board. Again, this individual will be limited to 3 minutes of non-confidential agenda items with an overall maximum of 20 minutes for this part of the meeting, if necessary. I did want to go back to Mrs. Oh, I scrolled too far. Sorry, hold on, just bear with me. Let me make it stop. Ever. Okay. Mrs. Mumsey would like to know if there's any indication that we will be getting full-time ICT special ed teachers in 4th through 6th grade. As opposed to, I guess, a shared or half time.
About 4. Pretty,
Yeah, it's 4 or 5. Right
It
now,
is?
it's 2 hours.
it's 2 hours.
4 or 6.
Right now, that's the current plan, so that's something we might have to revisit down the road.
There was a message here. This is not a question, sorry. Okay, wait, there are questions in here. So Mrs. Chardon is stating she agrees with Ms. Palmieri about the field trips. She wants to know who's in charge of health education. Health education falls under the guise of Mr. Mistretta, I believe, correct? Yes. Physical education and athletics and health all fall under the same. There's a question in regard to updating the curriculum to be inclusive of all our students, which would include our students who do not identify as heterosexual. I'm trying to read. And do we have any workshops planned in regard to updating that curriculum, as in with the science program? Do you want to answer that now, or I'm not really even, I apologize, Victoria, I'm not sure I'm even reading the question right. So I'm going to, I will not make you unmute your mic. I will.
I think she wants to know
Is
for
this,
health
is this,
education.
so you're going to, I think she's asking about sex ed, is that
Yes.
correct?
The health education curriculum.
I was waiting for Heidi, like, type yes. So are we updating our sexual health policy?
Did say yes.
Yeah, oh, there.
Right now, we're waiting for, in terms of the standards from the state, nothing new has come out. There are new standards for PE, and they got pushed off due to COVID, so that timeline has changed. So I'm assuming after the PE standards start to roll out, the health then, not too far.
Okay. If you have, I don't know if you heard that, Victoria, I understand that it's loud where you are. So if you have, if you didn't, Mr. Raymond said that they're rolling out new PE standards that got held back due to COVID. And he believes that the health standards will be changing shortly behind that. So that will be rolling out through the health and phys ed department. Okay. That's in here. So do we have questions from the audience? Mrs. Martinez?
I'm sorry.
I can hear you. I know, I'm not supposed to tell you to take it off, but I know I can't hear
Sorry.
you.
Well, actually, that's one of my questions, is I understand because of the situation that student athletes are only allowed to have 2 spectators come see them, and they'd be, put on a list and what have you. Given the restrictions being eased up, do you anticipate by the fall that you might be able to go back to sort of no masks, or at least masked spectators, but more spectators? Do you envision that happening?
I believe that our full anticipation is that school will be running as normal can be under the circumstances, because we don't know what the fall flu season is going to bring us. But as normal will be when we come back to school in the fall. And I believe that that's what Governor Cuomo is looking for as well. I think that that's even what he said.
We're planning for fall sports to start middle of August, full blast. Let's go. Kids come back in September.
Normal and
full.
I know that there's been some pushback from parents in the community. People see that things are easing up elsewhere, but not on our fields. And I understand that's a decision that the board has to do what they feel is safest for the students in the community. But so I was just wondering. So
Yeah, it had to do with the visitors, and that was a consistent policy from day one. We didn't really allow visitors on campus because we just felt it was the safest thing to do. And no, we didn't make. And I understand people want to see their kids play. Felt like that was the best thing to do at that time. But our full expectation, July 1, is that we're all planning for. Mrs. Rome said, as normal as whatever normal looks like, that normal. Yeah, but it's close to back to the way we were as possible.
Mrs. Hacker?
Yeah, in the presentation, you talked about summer academies. Is there going to be a summer academy this summer for the kids to adjust to new life? There'll be nothing for the kids this summer?
There's only
You can talk about.
There's the Written Out Loud program. There's the Written Out Loud program, which is a virtual program that we're piloting with grades 4, 5, and 6. Students can elect to sign up for that, and that would be unpacking and looking at storytelling and what makes a great story and how to write it. And then they get together and they'll be able to write one of their own stories and authentic work and have it published.
But no fun, art, sports.
Not this summer.
Well, part of the problem is we're a little pond project, Project C, so a lot of parking lots are being redone. All the work is being redone, so that's really a major problem, trying to keep people safe. We're able to work out our 12 summer program, 12-on-1 program. So 8, sorry. Some of those students will be coming in the side door at Chestnut, but we have to make sure they're safe as well, so we have to section them off one side of the building. So we're looking for a new and improved summer rollout a year from now for kids. Quite honestly, staff needs a break, and we're having a hard time getting staff to write curriculum, let alone participate in anything else. And I have to be honest with you, I wholeheartedly agree with everybody. Everyone wants to take a break and take a breath, and sometimes we need to do that. And we will come back revised, revitalized, and ready to go. Remember, that is why, another reason why Ms. Riley, with her depth communication skills, like Mr. Murray, was able to talk Mayan into giving us their program for free. So if a kid can't get to the library or they're on vacation, or whatever the case may be, they have access to books to read. So we felt that was.
Thank you. And then there's 6 additional subs. Will they be full-time employees in the district?
Yeah, no, that's finalized, but that would be the ideal world, yes.
When will you finalize that?
We're going to do the start survey tomorrow, and then after we close the survey, we probably leave it open, probably through Friday, maybe Monday, see how the responses are Wednesday, Thursday first. If we get a lot of responses, typical amount of responses for West Hampton, they probably close it on Friday. If we don't, we'll leave it open for Monday. Then we'll make decisions from there.
So will those subs be able to go to different buildings if, say, there is a pull-out for
That's the
people?
whole idea. Yes, absolutely.
We've tried to do, we tried back when Pat Chris was here even to do firm subs in the district, and that didn't work out in our favor because it was costly and we didn't have the money to do so. And but
The Affordable Healthcare Act.
Yeah.
What caused all that. And also, just so you know, is another, we did have a few Adelphi student teachers who also subbed in our district last year. We have a meeting set up 2 weeks from now with them, and we're actually hoping, we're keeping our fingers crossed that they can triple or quadruple the number of students coming into our district. So that happened, let's see if we double it, that's 8 more human beings. So now we're talking about maybe 14 subs every single day that we'll have at our disposal, which would have really, at that point, 14 is the number I can say to everybody. Because we've been averaging, this year we asked everyone, if you're sick, stay home for obvious
Years
reasons.
ago, we did have permanent subs.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I first got here last year. So hopefully that will all come to fruition, and then we'll be pretty well stocked with the things that we.
And then my last question had to do, you approved to pay for the football field at CW Post. Is there any reason why we didn't use our own football field for graduation?
Because, sorry. Because, the capacity limits are different. And so ideally, we were hoping that Post was gonna put us back inside the Tillis Center, so we wouldn't have to have a rain date or anything like that, and we would be able to be air conditioned. But the capacity limits here would not allow for one graduation, and or the same amount of guests for each student. So in order for our children to be able to graduate together, we decided to move from inside the Tillis Center, which is what we pay them for normally, to the football field where they could accommodate the entire senior class and 4 guests at a time.
When you look at all the graduations in all the universities, they're all out there.
I don't disagree, but we did it last year and there was no way to do the entire senior class and do the distancing and take chances on the fact that he wasn't gonna lighten the restrictions before then. Because it's 5 days ahead and, we went back and forth about what to do. And selfishly, my daughter said, I really just want to graduate with my class, which is what all the kids last year said, and all of them had to separate and be 4 different graduations, which was a lot. It was a lot for everybody. And, God bless those class president and the valedictorians who sat through 4 graduations and read their speeches 4 times and agreed to stay. And the only thing I asked, and I said it selfishly about Pat too, I said, if we do 4 graduations, you have to make sure Morgan and Melissa graduate last, because if they graduate first, we have to leave. I said, so make sure that we graduate last. But thankfully, they will get to graduate together, and hopefully, please, everybody, keep your fingers crossed that there's no rain on Sunday and that we get to be done Sunday morning.
And just one last piece, I know Governor Cuomo made that announcement today about really easing all the restrictions. They didn't change the restrictions for venues for graduation. He left them exactly the same. Which, quite honestly, it's Tuesday, graduation Sunday. If he would have did that, this whole place would have been in a tailspin. It used to be, also might have never came back. Miss Lample might have never came back. So we're just grateful, speaking to not every single student and every single parent, but the seniors, parents, and students that we did speak to. The one theme was, didn't want a prom. They wanted a senior week. They got their senior day the other day. They're going to have a senior night on Thursday. That's what they wanted. So I'm happy to be able to accommodate that.
Do we have any other questions? Or I go back to board privilege, which is really not board privilege, but it's just me taking time to speak a little. So I want to start by saying, this thing keeps popping up. I think it's a question. Congratulations once again to Mr. Mistretta on receiving his award tonight. We're very proud of you. Also, congratulations again to those who were recognized earlier this evening at the tenure tea in regard to their retirement, receiving tenure and or being a 20-year or more member of the district. We're very happy to have had you if you're retiring. We're very happy to still have you if you received your 20 years or received your tenure. Thank you very much for all you've done this year for our students and in our district. Graduation, really quick, I just want to touch on one more time for anybody in the room who is a senior parent, so the 3 of us, I guess. And anybody in the audience who may be a senior parent or planning to attend graduation, if you have a ticket from another student. Graduation is 10 a.m. at the football field at CW Post. I keep saying at the Till Center, but it's different. At CW Post, I don't know where that is, so I guess I'll find it on Sunday. You need proof of vaccine. This is CW Post regulations. You need proof of vaccine or proof of a test. You need either a full PCR test 72 hours prior to graduation or a rapid test, 3 hours, correct, James? 3 hours? 6 hours prior to, although graduation's at 10 a.m., so I don't think you're going anywhere at 4 a.m. to get a test, but proof of rapid test. Remember that proof of vaccine means 14 days after you received your second vaccine. So if it hasn't been 14 days since you received your second vaccine, you are not vaccinated. You need to have a test. Everybody must have a ticket, which were sent home 2 weeks ago. So please make sure you find them. This is great. In addition, I want to take this opportunity to thank a certain parent who may or may not be out in the audience for their contribution. I want to thank everybody's parents for their contribution to Senior Week and Senior Night. But I do want to say thank you also to one parent who's in the audience to make sure that we have lights on Thursday in case it gets dark. So thank you very much for that. And at this time, I want to take the opportunity to thank our retiring trustee, Mr. Katrakazis, for his dedication to the district over the last 3 years. I don't know how we're going to replace you, Tone, because your sense of humor, and I'm just grateful that your attire is like that tonight and not what we discussed. We will miss you definitely at board meetings, but we hope you continue to attend, and we hope that you continue to take part in district events. So on behalf of the Board of Ed, we have a little gift for you. So you guys can pass that down, and we want to say thank you very much. And good luck moving forward. And with that being his final meeting, I will welcome him next month, but I do want to welcome Mr. Kurt Rockenzies, who's in the audience tonight, who will be filling Tony's seat next month.
Gotta have the right attire, I'm telling you.
Just don't listen to anything he says.
Send your list.
Don't listen to anything he says. That being said, I need a motion to move into executive session for advice of counsel and to discuss personnel. Second. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. I just want to say one more time, thank you everybody for all your help and cooperation this year, which has definitely not been an easy one. And anybody that we don't see at the July meeting, enjoy your summer. Thank you for everything, and we'll see you in September. Oh.